Okay, thank you everyone for joining me. I am Alice from Kinesiology, and I'm actually one of 20 people across Australia that's been invited to be an ambassador for the ATMS for Natural Medicine Week this week. So that's a bit exciting. Last year, I actually ran a few webinars on various topics about kinesiology. And this year, I actually decided to go with really what's at the core of everything for us, which is actually the heart. So let's get started on that. I am going to share my screen when I figure it out. Oh, there it is right in front of me. Okay. So let's start with that. And well-oiled machine, this one. Okay, so as you all know, that's why we're here, is to talk about true wellness coming from the heart. So today we are going to talk about what is wellness. We're going to talk about how the heart really is at the core of it, how it controls everything. We're going to do a heart meditation, and I'm also going to give you some practical tips and tools as well. So obviously, I have to put a disclaimer in there, which is that all advice is general in nature and does not replace the advice of your medical practitioner. So obviously, I don't know everyone's individual circumstances and so on. So if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me or otherwise speak to your medical professional of your choice. Okay, so a little bit about me. Some of you do know me and some of you do not. So I am a wife of nearly 21 years now. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children. I have a 16-year-old boy who's in year 11 and a 13-year-old girl who is in year 8. I'm obviously a kinesiologist, which is a natural therapist that uses the body's muscles to work out stresses and imbalances in the body. I'm a mind-body medicine therapist, an integrative complementary medicine therapist. All of those things just mean that my job is to be able to get to the core of what your body is trying to tell you. I'm a mentor, a speaker, an author. I run some workshops, and I also do corporate wellness as well. So that keeps me a little bit occupied. So, okay. So wellness, what is it? So we have physical health. So that's obviously about how our body is functioning. So obviously things like, well, at least our heart beating, of course. Things that you would go to a doctor about. That's typically what we would consider to be physical health, I suppose. Then we have mental health, which we know a lot about that. Particularly, we've learned a lot over the last 12 months about how important mental health really is. Then we have emotional health, which is a little bit different to mental health. More about your feelings. Not just about what we would consider to be brain health, but actually really how you feel about stuff. And then we have spiritual health. So that depends on obviously your beliefs and values. So that can be about your religious beliefs. That can actually be about your spiritual beliefs or beliefs in perhaps universal consciousness or whatever your concept of, I guess, something bigger than yourself is. So, and wellness really is looking at all of these areas at once. So we can be physically well and still be really unhappy. We can have great mental health and not have good physical health. We can have good physical and mental health and still not really feel that great. So it's, in terms of wellness, it's really important for us to consider all of those levels at once. And I'm obviously exceptionally biased, but that's what I think kinesiology is really great for, is actually to address all of those levels at once. So let's break that down a little bit. So we have the 3 brains. We have the heart, we have the gut, and we have the the actual brain. And each one of those actually has its own innate intelligence. So the brain, which we would also possibly in a mind, body, spirit sense, we would consider that to be the mind potentially. Not always. That the brain we think is really being in charge. You know, the brain kind of does a lot of stuff for us. It has on its own 100 billion neurons, which is a whole bunch of little cells basically telling us how to function, and it controls really important things like breathing, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your digestion. It controls your nervous system. We know a lot about what the brain does. And we know that it has this really important characteristic called neuroplasticity, which is basically if part of our brain gets damaged, which is how we discovered neuroplasticity, you can actually learn new ways to do things to get around that. The way that I describe that a lot is basically, you know, when your brain does this, your body does that. So, and it develops this really ingrained path. But when that path gets, I guess, broken, the brain works out a new way to do stuff. So sometimes it can recover from stuff, sometimes it can't, but it's actually exceptionally good at finding new ways to do things. So, and then we know that our conscious brain, which is obviously our higher order thinking and our thought and reasoning parts of our brain, we know that that controls things that we are aware of. So a good example of that might be choosing what to have for dinner. I don't know if anyone thought about that tonight, but that's a conscious awareness activity. So then we have our subconscious brain, which is things that we kind of do that we're not really consciously fully aware of. So, and the subconscious brain does things like storing the memories and the feelings that we have. So now I'll come back to that one a little bit later. And then we have, I guess, our unconscious or autonomic brain, which is what actually controls things like our breathing. We don't have to think about breathing. So it's just something that actually happens. It controls our heart rate, which I'll also come back to in a second. That's something that just happens as well. So, but the thing is, if we do just change our thoughts, does this solve our problem? If we're just consciously aware that something's not right, does that really solve our problem? And usually, no, it doesn't. So then we move on to the gut, and we know that the gut has a massive influence on the brain. That's something that in natural therapies we've known for a very long time, and it's very much being considered part of conventional medicine now, which is fantastic. Now, compared to the brain, the gut only has 100 million neurons. So, and we've learnt over the last decade or so, maybe a little bit longer now, that the gut actually produces 90% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormones, and it produces 70% of all our hormones and neurotransmitters. So it's really, really important to obviously our overall health. Now, our gut actually controls our brain by communicating to it via this thing called the vagus nerve, which is one of the 10, it's the 10th cranial nerve in the brain. And there's a lot of research right at the moment actually about vagal nerve, the vagal nerve and vagal tone, and how the vagal tone actually affects our ability to self-regulate our emotions. So this is something that we are learning very much, and that is how all our hormones and neurotransmitters actually get around our body and also to our brain to do things. So the gut, it controls digestion, surprisingly. It controls our mood because that's where our hormones and neurotransmitters come from. It controls our immune response. It controls our heart rate to some degree. Unlike the brain, though, it has no memory. So it actually only focuses on now. which is really helpful. So we know a lot about gut instinct and trusting your gut and listening to your gut and all of that sort of thing. So we hear a lot about that. And that's important because if we come back to the brain, you know how I said that it stores our memories and feelings? The brain actually has a bit of a problem where it can't really consciously focus on now. It focuses on the future. It focuses on what might happen. It focuses on the past, which has already happened. And the brain actually works very much like a filing system. So it goes looking for, when something happens, it goes looking for evidence in its little filing system to pull out the files of all of the other times that this has happened, because then it understands what's happening. So this is an important part with fear, actually, just for reference. So when we are frightened of something, the brain goes looking for other times that we've actually felt that frightened feeling and pulls out the files of each time that happened so that it can really understand and try and help us to manage where we are at the moment. So now the gut, it doesn't have this memory, so it only focuses really on the now, and that gut feeling that you get comes a little bit back to the brain. So it comes back to those feelings because we felt that feeling before, we know what it is. Okay, we probably should do that again. But it also has its own intrinsic awareness as well. So it is something that we should very much listen to for gut instinct. So now for health, because we know that obviously it controls our digestion and controls our hormones and neurotransmitters, we need water, we need probiotics, we need prebiotics, we need fiber, we need vitamins, we need minerals. So therefore, if we eat well and we drink well and we take our supplements, does this solve our problem? And sometimes, yes, absolutely eating well is really important to us. Taking supplements when we need them, that's important to us as well. But you can think all the right things, you can eat all the right things, you can take all the right things, and you can still be miserable. Why? And this is where the heart comes into it. Now, the heart only has 40,000 neurons. So significantly less than either the brain or the gut. And it actually communicates to the brain and the gut via the vagus nerve as well. So, and a couple of other pathways. So brain responses are actually based on communication from the heart. And so are our gut responses. So let's go back to the gut. The gut produces 70% of all our hormones and neurotransmitters. Now, we know we have stress hormones. We know we have happy hormones. We know we have pleasure-seeking hormones. We know we have all sorts of different hormones, but they're there. What actually triggers them? And that's actually literally how we feel about stuff. So our cognitive ability is actually affected by our emotions. So how we feel about stuff. And our emotions rule everything. So, if we actually let's consider the stress model. Okay, so everyone knows stress. And we know that, we actually know that stress hormones are released from our adrenals, which sit on top of our kidneys. And if the gut controls that by producing the hormones and neurotransmitters, how does the gut decide whether to help release stress hormones or not? It doesn't. How we feel actually does. So if we feel fear, if we feel anger, if we feel rage, disgust, I've been talking to someone about that movie Inside Out today. So then those are all things that are stressful to our body. So then the gut gets involved and we start producing stress hormones. So if we feel happy, So when we don't have stress and we feel peaceful and calm and, you know, we're having a really great time, then our body starts looking at activating things like dopamine and serotonin. So, but the gut isn't deciding that, the heart is, because it literally is about how you feel that triggers how those hormones and neurotransmitters get used in your body. And how you feel about stuff actually affects how your brain searches through its little filing cabinet to find out anything that relates to that particular feeling that you have. So let's take the last time that you might have had a disagreement with a friend. So typically that person, when you get along with them, they might do something which, you know, it's a little bit unique to them, but it's kind of funny. So, and when you're feeling positive towards them, then it'll, you know, your hormones will go, oh, you know, that's kind of funny. We know how that happens. Ha ha ha. And your your brain then goes through its little filing cabinet and pulls out all the other times that you thought it was funny, that you found it, that it was happy. And so the brain then understands how to help the body respond to stuff. But, you know, when that person annoys you, like really, really annoys you, then you're like, oh my God, you know, you get really angry about it and it's annoying and it grates on you. So then you actually start producing stress hormones and they get released, and then your brain goes through its little filing cabinet and pulls out all the examples of when that person really annoyed you. So the situation could be exactly the same. It's actually about how your perception of it or how you feel about it that actually changes the way that your body responds to that person in that time. So the other thing that's really important, I actually came across a quote on the weekend, which of course I can't find now, but it's not actually just how we feel about something. It's actually even deeper than that. It is literally how we feel about how we feel. So let me explain that a little bit more. So let's say that let's say that you feel inferior to someone else, maybe who always does better than you at something. And then you look at that and then you judge yourself for feeling inferior. And so then you kick yourself basically for judging yourself for feeling inferior to that person, because you know what, everyone's better at you than something. And so you sort of rationalize it, but the feeling underneath that is the judgment, if that makes sense. So I feel inferior because they always do better at me at, I don't know, clearing their inbox. That's something I'm not good at, I have to say. So, but well, then I judge myself. So, well, I must be really crappy and not clearing my inbox. So that's how I feel about how I feel. So I have the feeling, but then I judge myself for it. Does that make sense? So that particular part is actually about basic drivers or emotional drivers that we have that literally affect how we perceive life. So those drivers are things like acceptance and benevolence. Benevolence is a term that we know the word, but we don't really know what it means. And what it actually means is being able to look on a situation without judgment, it's a bit of a challenge for a lot of people. So then we have things like feeling fulfilled. If we don't feel fulfilled, that can be an issue. Other drivers are things about value and self-worth, about feeling love, joy, and contentment, and even about feeling inner peace and wisdom, I suppose. So, but when we don't have those internal drivers met, then we tend to be quite critical of ourselves when we feel a particular feeling. So That is a particularly important part in how our heart actually controls controls everything, because if those drivers are not met, we feel an imbalance in that driver. Then we have a particular feeling, then our gut produces and releases the hormones that are related to that particular feeling, and then the brain goes and looks for all of these examples of how we've felt that feeling before, and all of a sudden you're in this big mess really of feelings and emotions and thoughts and stress, basically. And then the most important thing that we know about the heart, and this is something that is being studied extensively through the Heart Math Institute, is this concept of coherence. And coherence is about us personally. So coherence on a personal level, that would be about balance between mind, body, and spirit. Or like I was saying before, the mind, the physical health, the mental health, the emotional health, and the spiritual health. So coherence is a balance between all of those. And then we also have what's called social coherence. And this is about basically our social network, so feeling in sync with the people around us. And then an interesting thing that the Heart Math Institute are looking at the moment is this concept of global coherence, which is basically about how we as individuals can actually influence how the world works as a whole. So we can all contribute to the stress, or we can all contribute to the happiness, basically. So now the other thing that's very interesting about coherence, which has come up through some research, is that when we have what we call heart-mind coherence, where things are in balance, our intuition actually kicks in. The heart, with its 40,000 neurons versus the brain's 100 billion neurons, actually has an intuitive ability to understand information up to 6 seconds before your brain kicks in. That's a really long time. So when we consider all of these things, we consider how the brain's ability to function is literally affected by how our heart functions. Then if we consider how the gut's production and release of hormones and neurotransmitters is related to how we feel about stuff, this is where we get to that the heart really is the emperor, or the ruler, as we say in Chinese medicine. Okay, so the heart is the emperor. So Chinese medicine, as I was just saying, your heart is your emperor. It is the ruler. We know at a very basic level, even with all of your neurons and your hormones and neurotransmitters and whatever else, we know that if the heart stops, that's it. So you can, to some degree, live without a brain, but you can't without a heart. So unless with a bypass surgery, that's the only way that it's ever happened, basically. So, and the heart, as we've looked at, it affects everything. So it affects our hormones and neurotransmitters. It affects our thoughts and feelings. It affects literally the way that we perceive life. Now, the heart is believed to house your soul, or what makes you, you. We know it affects the gut. We know it affects the brain. And it's what we call our feelings palace, because it houses all of our feelings. It houses how we perceive life. And we have talked about coherence as well. So when we have coherence within ourselves, then we can have coherence in a social setting. And also we do have the ability to affect coherence globally as well. The Heart Math Institute have an app. I'll just check what it's called. It is called Global Coherence, and this particular app is one where you can check into it every day and actually participate in some of their activities so that you can do your little part in affecting global coherence. Because if we were all more connected to our hearts and our feelings and looking after those as opposed to being connected to how we think about stuff, what a great place this world can be. Yeah. Okay. Now, we are going to try a heart connection meditation. So my plan is to try and play some music off my phone. We shall see how that goes. And this meditation is about helping your heart to become the emperor. Now, if you're not familiar with meditation, that's okay. Give it a go. If it's not something that works overly particularly well for you, that's okay. Give it a go. You will get thoughts come in, and that's okay. So your brain decides this is a really good time often to download all the stuff that you didn't do today. Acknowledge that and put it aside for later. You'll get distractions come in, you know, dogs will bark, kids will make noise, something will fall off a table, you know, that's okay. Acknowledge that and put it aside for later. So, and then come back to your breathing. Just be aware of your breath going in and out of your body. Come back to the music, assuming that we can hear it, or otherwise come back to my voice. So I am going to start up an app called Relax Melodies, which if you've been to see me, I have probably told you about it. And I have actually set it up to play a particular style of music. So let's see. All right. That seems to be working. So what I will do is get you to close down your eyes. Just be comfortable where you are. You don't have to lie down. You can if you want to. This will only take maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes. And this is about connecting back to your heart, to your core self, to your soul, to the thing that literally drives you. And so take in 3 deep breaths and breathe in through your nose, filling your belly as much as you can. If you need a bit of help with drawing your breath down to your belly, put your hand on your belly and just draw your breath down to there. And then let it go out of your mouth. And 2 more times. Breathe in. And breathe out. And as you allow your breath to begin to take you to the world within, you begin to let go of the superficial world around you. And you're focusing on your soul's needs right in this moment. And now let your breath return to somewhat normal, potentially just a little bit more of an extended breath than what you would normally do, but something that is comfortable. And here we are, signaling to our bodies and our minds that we are safe in this moment. And everything is perfect just as it is right now. And place your hand over your heart. And as we make this physical touch, we're signaling to our minds and our bodies that we want to come from this space that is fueled with love and joy and gratitude. Bring to mind events or people or memories that bring you great levels of joy and gratitude and love. And it might be something simple, like the perfect cup of tea, or it might be something in more detail. Whatever comes to mind, that's okay. And play this in your mind like a movie. And evoke those strong feelings of gratitude and joy and love. And stay with these thoughts and feelings. And allow the feelings to begin to expand in your heart. And allow your heart and your heart space to expand further and further. And you're filled with joy and love and gratitude. And enjoy this moment. And I'll just leave you for a few seconds with these strong feelings of gratitude and joy and love. And in this expanded heart state, allow a thought or an image or a word to pop into your mind. Don't judge it. Just allow it to come in whatever form it arrives in. And feel your heart be expanded with the feelings of love and joy and gratitude. And place your hand back in your lap. And take a few deep breaths. And bring yourself back into the room where you're sitting now. And bring some gentle movement back into your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And just as you're coming back to conscious awareness, I want you to consider maybe at the beginning of the webinar where you were, maybe out of 10 in terms of happiness. and peace. And now, consider where you are now. Okay. Hopefully everyone is feeling a little bit more chilled. Now, what this is about is literally visiting your heart space, visiting your emperor. Yeah. So it's about really getting in touch with who you are at your core. And very often for true wellness, actually always for true wellness, it starts here. Okay. All right. Now, it really is that simple. So I wanted to give you a few tips for wellness, and obviously from a mind, body, and soul perspective. So, not surprisingly, meditation is very helpful. So, meditation is actually scientifically proven to help with over 100 different things that we see in Western medicine all the time. It's scientifically proven to help with sleep, to lower your blood pressure, to balance your heart rate, to help with digestion, to help with mental health, you name it, it generally does help. So, and that is why, because it's about really coming back to your core. Another one is gratitude. So literally focusing on the good in your life. It's not about toxic positivity where we go, oh, everything is fine when everything is burning down around us. But I can tell you from personal experience that even on the worst day, there is still something to be grateful for. And I actually am running a free gratitude group on my Facebook page where I put up a gratitude post every night and give you time to reflect on something that you're grateful for that day. And again, like I was saying earlier, the perception, so how you perceive life literally affects how your body functions. So that's another option for you that's also free. And, you know, what I really want you to get out of this list is that it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be different. Okay, step away from the devices. Ironic seeing as we're all on Zoom at the moment. But yeah, look, we could all do with a little bit less screen time. And the other tip that I do have with screen time, most of us are on social media, follow stuff that makes you happy. Yeah. Social media is fantastic in that it actually has an algorithm which makes it change to be the things that you interact with. So if you choose to interact with things that do good for you, they're the things that you're going to see on social media. If you interact in negativity and anger and frustration and that sort of stuff, that is the stuff that social media is going to show you. So if you're going to use it, interact with stuff that is good for you. But make sure you have some time away from it as well. Now, another one is it's called progressive muscle relaxation. Just Google it on, well, obviously on Google, but also on YouTube. There's lots and lots of videos for progressive muscle relaxation. And what that is designed for is to get you out of your mind and into your body. Okay, talking about your body, water. We all know water is good for us. Most people that come to see me tell me they don't drink enough of it. Drink more water. So it really does help from a cellular level. It helps with energy. It helps with body function. It helps with absorption of minerals. It helps with life, where a lot of us is water. Good food. Food is fuel. We know that. So eat fuel. Eat food that is as close to nature as possible. Supplements. If you're recommended supplements by a professional, and I forgot the L on the end of my professional, yes, take them. So they will do much better for you in you than they will in a bottle. However, you don't need 15 different things as a general rule. So I often have people coming to me with a little bag of supplements, and before they even take a thing out, I will say to them, you don't need all of that, because you don't. Water and good food are more important as a general rule. Now, the other thing is move. You do not have to boot camp. You do not have to ultra marathon, but you do need to move. Go for a walk. Do some yoga. Do some Tai Chi, some Qigong, some Pilates. Do something that you enjoy. Go and dance. So just move. Soul wise, get your feet on the grass. That is not so appealing at 6 o'clock in the morning right at the moment, or even right now. However, fortunately there's lots of daylight hours still, so get your feet out on the grass. So it's really good for grounding and connecting your energy to Mother Earth, and also for you to get your thoughts out of your head as well. Get the sun on your back. Really important to help with energy and vitality, as well as get a bit of vitamin D. Why not? Now, the most important thing is a non-negotiable 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes every day, non-negotiable, just for you. You can use that to get your feet on the grass, get the sun on your back. Do your meditation, do your gratitude, make sure you're drinking enough water, prepare, a decent meal for yourself or a snack. Even things like coloring in. I was actually on my iPad a little while ago, just doing one of the coloring apps. Rub cream into your hands. Do something. It really doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is beneficial and good for you. So these sorts of things will actually go a long way to improving your wellness overall, and really coming back to that coherent state that we were talking about. And as I was saying, they don't have to be difficult, and they don't have to cost a fortune. You just need to do them. That's all. Okay, so kinesiology, which is what I do, how does that help? So kinesiology is really helpful at helping you get to your core feelings. As I was saying before, it is a therapy that is a true mind, body, and spirit therapy. It addresses all levels in one. So it brings awareness to your conscious and subconscious patterns. Sometimes you're not aware of those, and awareness really is half the battle, because when we're aware of the way that we choose to do things, then we can choose to change the way that we do things. And therefore it's good at shifting patterns at a core level. So it works on its thoughts, feelings, physical issues, and your energy all at once. And the best part about it is it's very broad in what it can do for you, and it's very narrow and specific, because it's literally about you. It's about your body showing me what the answers are. And the best thing that we have very much learned over the last 12 months or so with COVID is that it is as much an energetic therapy as it is a physical therapy, which means that you can actually do kinesiology online as well. So we can tap into your energy and use our body to find out what's going on. And it's just as effective as coming to see someone and being on the table. So that is an important thing for you to know, because that's a bit of a shift that we've seen in kinesiology, very much so in the last 12 months. Okay. Now, so kinesiology, generally people will say that they feel more relaxed, light, more just That's what a lot of people will describe, really. So people may feel some body sensations in the clinic and sometimes afterwards, and that's okay if you do feel it, and it's okay if you don't. But generally what people feel is better, and that's really what we want. It doesn't matter what therapist you go to see. The reason that you're going there is because you want to feel better. So you go to a doctor, you want to feel better. You go to a physiotherapist, you want to feel better. You go to a kinesiologist, you want to feel better. It really doesn't matter who you pick. Now, sometimes people can feel a little bit worse after a session, and it's important for you to know that, because that is what we would call a healing crisis. It doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. But it usually resolves itself in a day or two. So if you were to feel that, I would encourage you to contact the therapist that you saw to just work through what's going on for you. So, but the idea is to feel better. I remember one of my teachers actually said to me that any change is good. That doesn't usually help people when they don't feel better immediately, but as with anything, this too shall pass. All right, so you can get in touch with me. You can find me on all the socials as Kinesiology. I have my website, Kinesiology. Here is my email, and here is my phone. Now I am going to just stop recording now, and